So there are two stimulus packages that are going around right now. You ain't know? Yes, there are two. So while we are focusing on one, the real party is actually going on over there. In this video, we're going to take a deeper dive into what's actually going on with these stimulus packages, both on the Fed side and the government side, because they're two separate things. And let's talk about how you're actually getting charged more than triple just to get that $1,200 check. All that and more, so keep it locked. This is Crystal with the Cash Compass. Alright, so welcome back. I am here to teach you all the things that you should have learned in school about money, but for whatever reason, nobody mentioned it. Please be sure to subscribe because we talk about everything from personal finance to investing to the economy. Let's get into it. Alright, so I have been releasing a lot of content about the stimulus package because it is so much money being printed. I mean, way more than 2008, and it's going to come with consequences. So yes, it sounds good. Shoot, I don't want $1,200, but I do want to get into more details about what's going on above that, because there are more things that they're not even mentioning, to the tune of trillions of dollars. That's a lot of money. Okay, so in my previous video, which you can click up here, I go into more detail about the things that we have been kind of hearing about. But in this video, I don't want to spend too much time going over the same thing. So I just want to point out some things that I didn't mention before that are important. So how do you get this money? So the check is dependent on your adjusted gross income. What's your adjusted gross income? You can go on your tax return. So if you file your taxes for 2018 or 2019, I hope you have your documents. Go pull that up and you will see black and white what that number is to the dollar. If you don't feel like doing all of that, here's a way to get kind of close. Everybody's situation is different, so I can't tell you specifically what it is, but for sure you should expect to be somewhere around this range. So if you look at this chart, you'll see this is the standard deduction chart. Everybody at least gets this amount of money taken off of their taxable income, depending on what your status is, if you're single or head of household or whatever. So if you take whatever your standard deduction is and remove that from whatever your gross income is, that'll get you close to where you can be. Again, everyone's situation is different as far as what is taken out of your taxable income. So for the best results, you need to go check your personal tax information, but this will get you really close. So who actually gets the stimulus money? It will be taxpayers if you have filed taxes in 2019 or 2018. I believe they're still using both of those as an option. I've also heard if as long as you have a social security number, you can get the money. But again, those details have not been finalized. So come back and I will update you on that. But what about the independent contractors, right? What about the Ubers, the Lyfts? What do they get? Well, as it stands right now, you are not eligible for unemployment, but with this new bill that's being passed, independent contractors, your Ubers, your Lyfts, freelancers, they will be able to apply for unemployment. And also, unemployment has an extra $600 per week for 4 months. So if you do find yourself unemployed, you can file for unemployment and you should expect to get $600 on top of what the qualification was in your state already. So you hear that and you think, yes, $1,200, and if I have a kid, I get $500. Like, we're looking at almost 2,000 bucks, but these companies are getting so much more and we pay for it. I have gone into detail on my other stimulus videos, but we pay for these things. Let's go over some other things that we are going to be paying for through our tax dollars, because the government issues debt in order to give these companies this stimulus package. So they are going to create a $500 million pool of taxpayer money for loans, loan guarantees, or investments. Now, when you hear loan guarantees, what this basically means is they'll say, company A, go ahead, borrow whatever money you need, and whoever you borrow that money from, we will pay if this company cannot pay. Kind of like if your mom co-signs on your car loan and you don't pay the car loan, now it's kind of her responsibility. Yeah, just like that. We are these companies' mama. Now, I did the math on that $500 billion. That one thing alone, mind you, this is a $2 trillion plan. That one thing alone costs each taxpayer over $4,000. And that's before interest. Okay, so that whole $1,200, $2,000, whatever, poof, it's already gone, okay? And we're just getting warmed up. Airlines are getting grants. That's absolutely free money. They don't have to pay that back. With another $25 billion on the side, just in case. That grant for the airline industry costs us $500 per taxpayer, and again, no interest. So that $1,200 check you're so excited about has literally evaporated with all the help that they're going to be giving to these other corporations. These large corporations are getting loans and loan guarantees, and a lot of times they pay very negligible interest or no interest at all. Now, the small businesses, which is the heart and soul of the American economy, they're only getting loans. We don't have loan guarantees and we don't have any grants, okay? So that's the stimulus package that we have already been hearing about. But what is the other stimulus package that I mentioned that is trillions of dollars? Well, that is the Fed. If you did not know, we have a Federal Reserve, which is our central bank, and we have the government. Our central bank is called the Federal Reserve, but there's nothing federal about it. It is a private corporation. Go fact check me. This is a private company printing our money and charge us interest for something that they just created out of effing nowhere. They have been putting money into the system since September. I don't want to get too technical because I know I will lose a lot of people, but long story short, they have been putting money into the system for months. In these 2 weeks alone, their balance sheet has exploded to over $1 trillion of purchases. So while we're getting, you know, crumbs, they're getting $1 trillion. What are they buying? Well, the Federal Reserve has a whole bunch of tools, and as you can see here, this is a long list. I literally went through every single link, and to sum it all up, it's just giving money out, okay? A lot of these things that they are doing is helping the corporations. So while on the government side of things, right, they're giving these corporations loans, but they're saying, so if we give you this loan, you cannot buy your stocks back. So on the surface, you're like, okay, good, finally, because no one has addressed this whole stock buyback situation where companies can inflate the price of their stock artificially. Whoa there. The Federal Reserve has no such requirement. So they can take the government's money and the Federal Reserve's money and just buy their stocks back with the Federal Reserve money. Boom. Now they're flooded with liquidity and they can still buy their stocks back. The Federal Reserve can give these companies loans at 0% interest, or again, interest rates could be absolutely negligible, and they can always just roll these loans over. So with these new tools, they can give money to corporations who will then buy back their stock or buy other stocks. They can give it to banks to buy investments. But if you think about it, if these companies and these banks don't actually ever really have to pay these loans back, it's kind of like the Federal Reserve is just buying it directly because they don't really ever get this money back. They are also purchasing what we call mortgage-backed securities and commercial mortgage-backed securities. What the hell is that? For my homeowners out there, you might have experienced something where you went to go get yourself a mortgage and then all of a sudden your mortgage was sold. You're like, whatever, I still gotta make this payment. But let me describe what's actually happening behind the scenes. They're taking your mortgage, your neighbor's mortgage, everybody else's mortgage, and they put it in a cute little bow. Boom. And then they get rid of it, right? Because as a bank, do I really want to have trillions of dollars of mortgages? No, because then I don't have any money to go ahead and get some other investments. So they'll sell all your mortgages to somebody else who puts them in a nice little bow, and then they give them out to pension funds and individual investors and these institutional investors, really. So then what happens? You have a diversified risk. So if you don't pay your mortgage, it doesn't screw over me, the bank. It's going to be distributed to people in their pensions and their 401ks who have absolutely no clue what they're invested in. Typically, these mortgage-backed securities are not good loans. They're normally a whole bunch of kind of bad loans. They'll sprinkle in some good ones and then they divide this up and give it out to other people. So now what happens is the Federal Reserve is buying up all of these securities. So they're buying up all this real estate basically as well. For this week alone, they have spent $125 billion every day, okay? Not $125 billion a month, no, $125 billion a day between buying treasury bonds, which is the government's loans, and buying these mortgage-backed securities and pretty much buying up real estate. They gonna own the whole world. Laughing, but it's not funny. Also, they don't have a reserve requirement anymore. First and foremost, the reserve requirement was laughable to begin with. You only needed 10% of the money that people deposited. So when you go into the bank with your $1,000 before, they had to keep $100 and then they can go loan out the rest. Now, as of March 26th, do what you want, banks. If you want to go ahead and loan your money out to everybody, go ahead and do that. And why is that a hazard? If I have $1,000 and I put it in the bank, now the bank says, well, we have $1,000 to go ahead and loan out. So now Susie has $1,000 and she puts it in her bank, and that bank says, well, now I have $1,000 and I can go loan this money out. Do you see the problem? There's only one actual $1,000 deposit in the bank. If Susie and I wanted to go get our money back, we couldn't do that, okay? That's a Ponzi scheme. But anyway, I don't want to get too too woke in here. So when you make that reserve requirement 0, there are no boundaries. Banks can make loans coming out of their ears and eyes and mouth, okay, and other places too. I really urge you guys to go ahead and fact check me. I do not make these things up. I go and look for this information for myself, for you guys, of course, and I want you to share the information. It's extremely important. The more people that are educated, the more we can protect ourselves, because all right, that is it for this video. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and like I said, share, educate your folks. And if you have some free time, you know what to do. Binge watch me. And until next time, keep your money up.